going.
Cool.
So, Brandon, thank you for coming over. I appreciate it. And like I mentioned, no introduction needed.
Yeah,
We'll do a little intro on the bio type thing and the thing. But
for sure.
so I think what I'm really interested in finding out, I've known you now. I don't know when I met you for the first time,
Uh, Probably like 2018, 19 range, somewhere in
probably
there.
in there.
Yeah, a little before
Knew you a
COVID.
little bit through Kyle, like
Yep.
ancillary,
Yep.
but never really knew you. And then we started running that when I think it was when Kyle was
Yep.
going through his
Yeah,
challenges, I'll call it.
for sure. Yeah,
But
that's kind of linked up.
no, I think what we're let's start, and then where I want to get to is, you're working full time,
Yep.
family, kids. You still find time to bike now,
Try.
and we'll go through the whole like how did you get into the weightlifting, the
Yeah.
CrossFit? You kind of basically brought CrossFit here to the Quad Cities. But I don't know much about where you grew up and how you got into the whole motocross thing. But it almost ties into the thing about taking chances, because what I've realized lately is that if you're not taking a chance on betting on yourself, somebody had to help you along the way,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like, was it your dad that influenced you? And if you listen to a few of the podcasts, it's like, like Kurt Johnson, his mom was a all-state basketball player, right? And then Kurt got into basketball. So let's just start off
Yeah.
by, because I don't know, did you grow up in the Quad Cities?
I did. I grew up
Okay.
out towards Geneseo. I
Oh,
went to Geneseo schools. We lived kind of between Kelowna and Geneseo on Wolf Road out there. So, grew up out that direction and get right to it. I started racing dirt bikes when I was 6 years old, and it was kind of an interesting, intro to motorcycles. My dad didn't really race or anything like that. No one in my family really did, but there was my grandfather's good friend, Henry Sharp was his name. His son, Tommy Sharp, was a pretty good like woods like enduro hare scramble racer. And so hanging out over at their house, they were drinking some beer one afternoon, and they had like a little field next to their house. And he's like, "Hey, you ever ridden a motorcycle?" And I'm like, "No, not really. Had a three wheeler once." And so my grandpa's like, "You want to ride it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So they pulled a old Suzuki JR50 out of the garage and threw a helmet that was way too big on me.
yeah.
And I think I rode for like an hour and a half straight in a field, like just in circles and whatever. And so then he's like, "Hey, we're going up to Morrison, Illinois, to the Bike Barn, which is a pretty popular. I mean, a lot of people know about the Bike Barn, but to race tomorrow, if you want to go, they have like a 50 class. You can go race. It's pretty chill." So my dad was actually out of town. My grandpa and my uncle were like, "You want to go?" I said, "For sure." So we loaded the bike up the next day and went up there. And it was just like there was like I think probably only like 8 or 10 people, young kids, and
Yeah.
it was through like a sand like tree section, pretty chill. But I ended up winning the race, and I was kind of hooked.
Wait, and how old were you at
I
this
was
point?
6.
6 years old.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's pretty common for motocrossers to start, 6, 7 years old. Um, I'd say it's one of those sports that if you don't start pretty young, it's tough. It's you
Yeah.
lose a lot of the fundamentals and as a young kid. So, but yeah, that's how it started. It was kind of an off chance thing where somebody had a bike sitting in the garage. They asked me if I want to ride it, and I said yeah. So here, 20. I think I spent the next probably 20 years pretty well dedicated to racing motocross.
And that motocross, like let's call it almost like I would say the ultra world. It's not like mainstream back
No,
then. So what year are you talking like so?
so that it would have been 1986.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think where I grew up, there was one kid
that you knew of.
that I knew of that did it, and his name was Gary Lucia. And I don't know if I ever asked you if you knew him, Gary Lucia.
No, I
He
don't.
became a pro.
Where was he from?
He was from Peabody, Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was the only guy. And we had a friend that his dad was a doctor, and he was pretty well off. We didn't have any of these toys. We had
Yeah.
nothing. We didn't have ski mobiles, bikes, nothing.
Yeah.
But he had two dirt bikes. So when you're 6, it's on that, what was it? A Yamaha? No,
Suzuki
Suzuki.
JR50.
So
Yeah.
you still had to learn how to shift gears and
It was
everything.
so it didn't have a clutch.
Okay.
They were automatics, but they have a transmission, so it wasn't a full auto.
Okay,
It
so it
like
wasn't.
it, yeah, you had to get three speeds. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
So
No clutch
one
though.
down, two up. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so now you're 6 years old. Did you have brothers and sisters? I don't even
I
know.
have a younger
A
sister.
younger
Yeah.
sister. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you start to get serious about it? Because you said you were
Um.
hooked.
Yeah. So we rode like a lot of like just hair scramble stuff up, like woods racing for a while. I started racing motocross specifically probably at like probably like 9 years old, somewhere in there. Got more into that and kind of left the hair scramble stuff behind. It was a little more my speed to
Hmm.
jump, and just the tracks and stuff were cool. And the cool part is we had friends that we made really quickly. I've said this before many times and stuff, but like I was super lucky to have really talented dudes around me, like at a young age. I mean, I had the Timmerman boys who were probably 3 and 4 years older than me, and both like national level, like amateurs. I had Purdy's, Muscatine, Iowa. Both those guys were about the same age as the Timmermans, and you know, again, nationally like ranked, like would go to amateur nationals and do well. Some guys local around home, and then a guy named Junior Jackson, which a lot of people know his name, but he's probably the fastest guy to come out of the Midwest, kind of Quad City area in that era. And he's like 10 years older than me, but I was like, that's who I rode with. That was
Yeah.
like the people. And so I feel super fortunate looking back on it to be able to basically have like these guys pave the way. I didn't have to, I mean, clearly you make a lot of mistakes in anything you do, but I spent a lot of time doing it right because they kind of didn't let me do it wrong. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They were hard on me a little bit, but it paid off. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah.
And when do you remember getting your own first bike?
So I can't remember there's some funny stories along the way there, but I actually got a little sponsorship from one of the Honda shops up in Cedar Rapids. Maybe it was even Hawkeye Honda. I don't know, whatever it
Yeah.
was. And they brought like a Honda MR50, which was like not a mainstream bike. It was kind of off the wall. First time I raced it in Cedar Rapids, the throttle stuck on it, crashed off into the weeds, whatever. And then I think probably the first new bike we bought was probably like when I got on 65, a KX60, a little bit bigger bike when I was probably like 10, 11 years old. But up to that point, I mean, we would buy used stuff and we didn't have a lot of money. So we just, whatever worked, worked. And, my dad and my grandpa were pretty well nonstop fixing broken parts. It was like, it was like race on the weekend, fix them all week and practice and go back and do it again. So, but to answer your question earlier, you said, when do we get serious?
Yeah.
Probably to me, when it started to get serious, thinking back, when I was like 11 or 12, I got like my first like factory Yamaha support ride. And so that was probably the point, and that was like the first year I went to an amateur national. Did pretty decent, but that's probably the point I can remember, first where I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
this is for real." You know what I mean? We're
Yep.
we're taking this seriously, And we started at that point, traveling a ton, and my dad would work all week, and then basically, I mean, there was periods of time we would jump in the truck, Friday evening, and drive down to Florida and race, and then come back and go back to school on Monday, and so it got serious quick.
Yeah. And for the people that don't know about BMX and or motocross, what is it actually called? And then
So
how
so
is it?
motocross,
So
yeah,
motocross.
yeah.
And then is it like wrestling? You get weight classes. Is it by CCs or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
by size of bike and age.
Okay.
So yeah, basically like depending on like it's like 7 to 11 as a group, and then like 12 to 13 is a group, and like it's
So
age,
ages
and
and
and then size of bike. So like
size of
basically you
okay.
won't ride anything bigger than an 85. Well, now it's an 85, it's an 80 back then, but up until once you're like 15 years old, you get on like what used to be a 125 two-stroke. Now it's four strokes, all different. But yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, it progresses that way.
Cool. And then you guys trailering this or is it in the back of a pickup?
Back then, it was in a
You
pickup for
could
sure. Yeah, it was like
drive it up in the
a
back.
Ford Ranger, dude. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like it was literally like we were low budget racing. We were just, literally me and my dad in the front seat of a single cab pickup. Would just mob around and do what we did. So it was pretty cool.
So you picked that up at 5, 6 years old. Now
Yep.
you're doing it. Did you do any other sports?
I played almost every sport
Okay.
through school. Yeah, I was had a little bit. I still have a little bit of a fitness ADD problem. I just like to try things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of motocrossers stay pretty mainstream to like the one thing, and they don't veer off. I was different. I mean, I played little league baseball.
Yeah.
I played pretty much every sport. To be honest with you, I didn't play like tennis or anything, but like, mainstream sports. Um, Through high school, I played. I wrestled through high school. I played soccer all through high school. So I picked those two sports to stick with based on they were kind of the most like physically demanding, and it kept me in shape for racing the easiest.
Yeah.
So I figured I might as well do that. So
Yeah. I feel like people don't realize how much physical toll it takes on you to on that bike.
people have no idea. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I kind of do. I know,
Yeah,
like I said, I rode casually.
yeah,
Um, and I got a quick funny story about that same kid, Ray Igo was his name, and he had like a brand new Honda red. So I have no idea what
yeah,
CCs or anything.
yeah.
And then he also had like a YZ80, and that thing had like the fat seat. It was an old
Yeah, yeah,
bike.
old school bike.
So we used to ride and he had like a little bit of wooded area in his backyard. But the point I'm getting to is that I have an older brother, Mike, and we used to go there and ride. And when Ray got the new bike, he was riding that one, and he would let us ride the old one, right? So we're in the backyard, and he kind of had like a go through the woods, and there was like rolling hills. Well, this kid had a younger sister, and she came running out, and my brother Mike fucking hit her
Oh,
and like
geez.
ran over her back.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
So that was the last time we got
Yeah,
to
you were,
ride
yeah,
bikes
they pulled that
forever.
privilege away.
Right. That we were done riding the motorcycles after that. And
Yeah.
then he also ruined the ski mobile ride. And we had another friend. It's a sidetrack, but it's so funny. He had like three ski mobiles,
Yeah.
right? He had the souped up one that he would ride, and he had these two other ones that were like, the used ones. So he would let us ride every once in a while. We'd be double riding, right,
Hmm.
around through the snow and everything. And then same deal. My brother Mike gets on the old one, puts it right through the fucking side of the garage, like right
Okay.
through. So we couldn't
That's why
ride
we
with
can't
ski
have nice
mobiles.
things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So you said that story about going to Florida. Like, so then how does that, like, I'm guessing, is it similar to skill level with, like, you mentioned age and you mentioned size of
Yeah.
bike, but then is there like a class level too?
Later on, once you're like so like the last like age group stops at mainly at 12 to 15. There's a when you get on a big bike at 125, there's what's called the schoolboy class. And that's typically at the amateur nationals one of the
Okay.
fastest classes. And it's usually a lot of guys right before they go pro. And so that's a super fast class. And then from there it goes, like ABC is literally what it does. Like
Yeah.
C's like slowest, B, and then A. And then you basically go into pro. So they've changed a few things, but that's the general basis of it across the board. So most guys, like I didn't really ever race amateurs as like a B rider. Yeah, most of us went like straight from being a schoolboy rider to like the A class.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
just kind of how it's kind of the jump goes when you're on that level, I guess, so to speak. But yeah, so I pretty much got my pro card when I think I was 17 when I actually got it, and then went more into the arena cross side of things,
Uh,
which to be just to give a fast overview, there's in the pro like ranks, there's motocross, which is like outdoor, 2+ minute lap times fast, like rough, fast track. Supercross, which a lot of people have seen as indoor, more technical. And then arena cross has been around for a long time as well, but arena cross is even tighter. So it's like, to be for reference, like it's the same as racing like in the Mark or iWireless or whatever
yeah,
it's called now.
small.
And it's tighter. Lap times are like 35, 40 seconds. And there's still 20 bikes on the track. So it's a little bit of a circus in
Yeah.
itself. So, but I raced that for 7 or 8 years. And that's kind of where my career ended. I mean, I never raced any Supercross. Had some desire to do it, battled some injuries off and on, so I didn't really get to do that. But yeah, spent most of my life on a dirt bike that way. So yeah,
So
you
when
know,
you called it your pro cards, you're racing pro. Pro to me means there's prize money.
yeah. So
Okay.
started making money when I was like 15, 16. Back then, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but back then there was way more money locally to be made for motocrossers.
Okay.
The sports just changed a lot.
Yeah.
It was no big, it was kind of a common thing to get, free bikes and parts and like for fast guys in local areas. And then you go to fair races or weekend races. And I mean, not that this is dumb money, but at 16 years old, I mean, it wasn't crazy for me to make like $1,500 on a weekend.
Wow.
Um, and so that side of the sport was way cool in the 90s. I
Yeah.
mean, as of now, it's just not that way anymore. But I think that the life of like a privateer motocrosser was way better back then. And then if you go race arena cross, there was more money to be made in that and whatever. But just in general, it was just I mean, bikes were way cheaper. Just to do the sport was way cheaper, and then there was actually prize money to be had. So it was more normal for somebody to kind of chase that dream back
Yeah.
then. Now it's a lot harder for sure.
Yeah. I feel like it's that same way with almost every sport now.
I agree.
The comparable I'll say is I had on one of the podcasts this guy Mark Dowdle, and he quit his job like a year ago to become a professional runner
Okay.
or a sponsored
Yeah.
runner. And when you look at it and you look and you go, okay, who are the sponsored runners? And now, like you said, you might get free shoes. Like Hoka
Yeah.
might send you some
Yeah.
shoes, but they're not paying you,
No,
right? There's probably only a handful or maybe 10 to
for sure.
20 men and women that are
Yeah.
professional runners, right?
Well, and like that's the thing that's crazy about, to tie into the sport of running. It's like there's just not money in that sport when it comes to like being good at it, unless you're marketable, beyond belief. Like you look at even guys like Phil. I mean, Phil Young is an exceptional runner.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
without
like
a doubt.
almost broke world records, and,
Yeah,
and it's like no one pays that guy to do
right,
anything. Like he runs a shop, and like you know what I
right.
mean.
He
So it's
can't
like,
even get sponsored by Uncrustables,
which is
and
sad
it is
because
sad. They're a good
they're
product,
missing
and
they're missing a big opportunity.
but like when I was talking to that guy Mark, I'm like, Mark, if you think about if say you get a free pair of Hokas or whatever,
Yeah,
or whatever shoe, they're marketing now. How many more shoes are you going to sell, right?
yeah,
Because isn't that what it's all
it's a
about,
big
right?
trade-off.
And on the one the podcast that I did with uh, shoot, who was it? With Stephen Paul.
Yeah,
So he's a country singer, right?
yeah.
It's in social media, right? So
Hmm.
if you don't have 500,000 followers and
Yeah,
you don't have that, you're not
you're not
even
worth anything
being
to
looked
anybody.
at, right? So
Yeah,
Phil could have 1 million followers. Maybe that gets someone's
yeah,
attention.
yep,
But it is kind of crazy how that, there's that parallel of back then you could make 1,500 bucks a
yeah,
weekend. And I'm sure with if you're that good of a runner, you could go and try to win the Bix, right? And make,
yeah.
15, 18,000 bucks. That's pretty
Right.
good.
Yeah, that's
But you're not
crazy.
winning Boston and
No, no,
getting
you're
200
not.
grand or
Well, and
250.
even you look at like, Kyle, like Kyle was a good runner, ran for Under Armour, did other things, and was paid to be a runner. Obviously a great runner, but it was, if you look at it, it was more his image
It was
that sold him.
modeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like
right,
he looked
right.
the part better than most. And so,
Yeah,
yes, you got to be a good runner, but at the same time, it's like there's got to be an X factor. Otherwise,
yeah.
they're like, oh, there's 30 guys just like you. What's it, so, but
All right,
anyway.
so let's back up because now you said from like 17 for 8 years. So what else did you do like between in those years? Like
Yeah.
if you weren't trying to support yourself that way, were you?
Yeah, so I was making a living,
Yeah.
I mean it wasn't anything crazy, but it was enough to live. And I went to college. I went to Kirkwood. Throughout all that, I went to school to be a CNC programmer
Oh,
and do
okay.
computer aided drafting, which I
I
later
did
did.
not
I
know
did
that.
nothing with.
Really?
Not really. I mean, I did a few things, but so I did that during all of that time. I mean, I've always been a little bit of a jack of all trades. Like I've just done a lot of different stuff, and so I would just pick up different jobs like on the off seasons. And I mean, from working at a motorcycle shop to pouring concrete to working at machine shops and all that different stuff. So through that time period, I did quite a few different things, and then I ended up kind of quitting racing from that, at that level at like 25 years old. Um, had a few injuries the last couple years that were, I mean, I say they really weren't my fault. Like just dumb stuff happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Bikes breaking on the faces of jumps and, and getting landed on and weird things where, it's hard when, like, it's one thing when you get hurt and like you had a big part in it. Like, oh, I made a mistake and I
Yeah.
crashed and broke my arm. But like a bike breaks and someone lands on you and all this stuff, and it's like starts to get a little bit disheartening to a degree.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, it was just the point. I was building a house at the time, and I was like, you know what, this is it. Like I still rode dirt bikes a lot for many years after that and raced and had a good time, but went to work and just kind of put that behind me a little bit, and it was time.
Yeah. So let's transition then. When did you start to get into the weights and the
Yeah.
CrossFit stuff?
So I never. One of my biggest kind of funny. One of my biggest downfalls as a motocrosser, to be truthful, was I was never in quite good enough shape.
Huh.
Um, yeah, ironically. So I had plenty of speed. I was always could always run the lap times, but I just didn't take training very seriously. I hated it, to be honest with you. I hated the gym. I did not enjoy it. And I think that's why when I found out about CrossFit and got into it, I was like, wow, I wish I had this 10 years ago.
Yeah,
But
right.
it was a fun way to work out. And so how that happened, Justin Dean and Josiah Lorenzen. Josiah ended up being my business partner throughout all this, my brother-in-law. But Justin, I think, was the first one that kind of introduced us to it a little bit. So we just kind of fell into it. And I think that the pivotal part where we decided we were going to get into like fitness, we were at my wedding in Florida, and Josiah and I were talking, and it was kind of one of those things where like I feel like we're at the age, or I was at least, where I was like, I see people either take their health and fitness seriously,
Mm,
or they just go like, "Oh, I'm gonna get fat. It's cool."
yeah.
You
Oh,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not into that. Like,
Right.
I want to be fit.
Yeah.
And so we got back, started doing a little bit of CrossFit with Justin. We would literally just like load my pickup truck up with like a barbell and some things and go to a track and just go to CrossFit.com and try to do whatever they said to do that day.
The
And
WOD.
yeah, the WOD of the day. And a few months into that, We kind of chatted about opening a gym, and we had a space that we could get reasonable behind the church. It was an old like pool that had been filled in, and it was just I don't even know, it was probably 3,500 square feet at the most. Uneven floor all over, and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And so we just decided to give it a shot. To be honest, it was crazy. So we went got our level one certifications up in Chicago, at the police station. It was a pretty cool experience actually. Um, and went for it, and it was pretty crazy. I was still working, doing some concrete stuff at the time, and when it took off, like we were in shock. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, we had no idea. Like we were like, "Is this going to work? Are we going to have 30 members?" And that's all the bigger it gets. And so we had kind of had like a loose 1 year goal. I remember of like, "Hey, it'd be super cool if we had like 50 members in a year,"
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And I think by like 4 months we had like 60. And so we were like, okay, this is going to go a
Right.
little
What
better than
year
we
is
thought.
this?
This was in 2009.
2009. Okay.
Yep.
And when was the original, like, when did CrossFit become, like, it went like through the roof for a
So I
while?
think we were a little before like its actual like, where it basically became like a
Like
mainstream
the
thing.
rich running before that.
Yeah, before that. So I think the first CrossFit Games was in 2007.
Okay.
And so we really didn't have much, to be truthful, much exposure to that stuff though back then. It was like it existed, we knew it existed, it was like something that was like it looked like it really back then, and it looked like it was a bunch of dudes that were like, hey, let's go to the backyard and
Yeah.
see who's more fit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind
Yeah.
of how it started.
Yeah.
So we were more into like one of the big sells, I guess, when I went to my level one and decided like, hey, we should really do this. Like we sat down and decided it was a good idea. Was really more around like the longevity of like people's health and ability to
Mm.
move. They really sold that back then well, like as in, hey, people end up in nursing homes because they're not strong enough to get out of a chair.
Yeah.
Like, like
Yeah.
you guys can help with that. And so that was really like a pivotal piece. The competition side of it really didn't come around for us much until like probably 2011, 2012. It was
Do you,
more just like get people in the gym and get them healthy.
yeah, on the longevity thing real quick.
Yeah,
Do you ever listen to Huber Lab?
yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Do you know Peter Attia, his buddy?
Yeah, I think I know who
He's
it is. Yeah.
so when you said something, it reminded me of this. So I listen in. So Peter Attia and him are friends, and they've done podcasts together a couple of times. But he
Mhm.
talked about longevity,
Yep.
and he said, look, if first of all, if you don't have a goal
Right.
for being 85,
Yeah.
then you should get one. But his point was, look, if you want to be 85 and be able to pick up your grandkids or great grandkids, you got to start now.
100%.
Right. So
Yeah.
like think about that. Like so that's kind of cool how you realize, hey, one of the other things I thought of when you said that you didn't, there was two paths, right? I feel like maybe it's different for you guys, but like I remember going to like the 5 year high school reunion, people like didn't change much.
Yeah.
Then you go to the 10 year and you're like, oh wow, holy moly.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the 20
Yep.
and 25 and you're like, okay, that kid used to be all American
Yeah.
football and now he's
He's struggling.
350 pounds,
Yeah. No, and
Um,
it is. It's like it's. I don't know. People talk about this all the time, so it's pretty common to say, but it's a choice. Like you have to like sit down almost with yourself and go, like, who do I want to be? Like,
yeah.
and I think until people can do that and like you said, set a goal in a direction, it's not going to happen by accident. Like we talk about that. Like I was on a podcast with did some stuff with my buddy Sinan, he's a chiropractor, and we were talking about like, what's it mean to be like fit after 40? And it's like it's not an accident ever. Like,
Yeah,
it's
right,
it's
right.
like it just
Yeah.
doesn't, it's like you can do that in your 25, when you're 25 and 30 even, but it's like you start getting a little older, and it's like if you're not intentionally doing something on a regular basis in the same direction, like you're gonna
Yeah.
lose your ability to do most things, and it's just is what it is. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's funny because now I look back and look at all the people that have been on the podcast and going back to like with John Byrne and John
Hmm.
DeDonker, and these guys are into their going to be 60.
Yeah.
DeDonker's 61,
Yep.
and they're still out there doing
Yeah.
it. And when we were talking about Leadville with DeDonker, he's got to do two more for the 10 to be 1,000 miles. He's 61 years old,
Yeah.
and the odds of finishing that race are 50-50 off the bat, but they go down to like, 10 or 15%
Yeah. At
after you
that
turn
age.
60.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's like, and that's the thing that's, I always dealt with in the gym too, with different people that would come in with, oh, well, I have a bad shoulder.
Yeah,
My,
yeah,
my knee hurts. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, cool. but like you're gonna live your life that way one way or another. So you might as well train. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
One way or another, you might as well train. It's like,
yeah.
and I get it. I mean, I make excuses too. Don't get me wrong. I can be fall guilty in that category as well. But you look at it and you go, if that's the goal, if John wants to hit 10, it's like, well, then he's got to figure out how to train
Oh yeah, and
around
he's
his situation because
yeah,
that's not changing.
right,
It's like,
right. You're not getting younger,
right.
right?
And that's just
Yeah.
life. I don't
So
know.
now you got 60 members. You guys are kind of shocked after about 4 months in that
Yeah.
business. And the space was the one on 53rd, or what was the
That was
original?
later. So
Okay.
original was it was off of Tremont, at the original Rock Church building. It was actually the old Davenport Athletic Club,
Oh, okay.
and so there was a big space in the back that was like I said, 3,000 feet. We were there for a couple of years. Um, then we moved up to the place on 53rd Street, bought that building, got rolling there, and then shortly after that, we decided we wanted to open up another location.
Yeah.
So we got a spot over behind South Park Mall, like towards the river, a little small, like 2,500 square foot building. We
Okay.
opened a little Moline gym that we
Yep.
grew out of that in a year. Then we opened the one down off of River Drive with the big glass front
Yep.
with
Yep.
next to Milltown. And we were there for a while. So we at one point we had three gyms. We had the Davenport original one, the one in Moline, and then we actually opened one in Rock Island.
Yep. I remember that
So
one.
yeah, next to CFX. And so that one lasted like a year and a half, and it just honestly was it wasn't that it didn't do well, it just was a lot to manage. And so we grew quick, blew up, and we continued to grow for a lot of years. And I think at one point or another we realized like we wanted to kind of stay a little smaller, to a degree, and just hone in on like being better at what we do as opposed to just continuously growing. So
What was the peak memberships about total?
probably I'd say somewhere I'd say between all the locations at the peak, I think we were probably pushing 500 members at one
Oh,
point.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, mid fours, something in there. Yeah.
I mean, for the Quad Cities, that's pretty
Yeah,
good,
for sure.
right? Because I don't know
Yep.
how many people go to the Y, but the Y has how many locations, so
Right.
it's probably 5,000
Yeah,
members.
it's a
Who
ton.
knows?
Yeah.
And I think, the Betplex with TBK, who knows how many they
Yeah, they
have,
have a
but
lot. But as you know, it's a totally
it's
different
very
model.
specific, right?
Their model is like charge you $24 and maybe
Yeah,
hope you don't show up.
right.
I mean, we never had that
Yeah.
model. So
It's funny. I remember, so I moved here in 2011. So you guys were probably going pretty good. And maybe in like 2012,
hmm
there was a guy I worked with, Matt Haight, and he was like, "Hey, we should go check out this CrossFit
Yeah.
place." And I was like, "Okay." Now, stupid me, I joined a gym back in Boston. It was called Nautilus, and
Yeah.
it was all Nautilus equipment, and it was the same thing, like you said, $20 a month,
Yep.
90 bucks for the summer for kids in college. It was a full functioning gym, pool, racquetball, all
Yep.
that kind of crap. So I was like, "All right, let's go check it out." Little did I know, I had no idea. I was under the impression like if you joined, you could just go
Oh yeah, yeah. No
and
schedule. It's
work
like
out.
no
It
class.
was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So like explain to people like that because I don't know if a lot of people
Yeah.
know that.
So the model of CrossFit and in that style, it's changed a bunch now just because CrossFit's sort of lost a little bit of its
Yeah, it
traction,
has,
but
yeah.
still there's a lot of gyms doing the same thing. It's more of it's a class time, so we have classes or we had classes rather throughout the day. And an instructor for each one, and you usually cap the classes around 15 people so you could keep a little bit of like intentionality behind
Yeah,
it
yeah.
rather than just, flooding the place out. But yeah, the whole model was built on trying to get people, I mean, literally kind of holding their hand through all things. We taught a lot about nutrition. We spent a lot of time with that. Josiah went and got a ton of different certifications to be able to, fully understand, nutrition's funny just because, you can understand it well for yourself or maybe for a handful of people, but you start talking to different types of people and their different habits and how their body responds, and you definitely need to know a few things
Oh
to be able
yeah,
to deal with,
absolutely.
500 different people or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we were big on just making sure that we kept people as healthy as we could, and that did include nutrition and mobility and moving well, and not just trying to be like a powerhouse or a good runner or whatever, just keeping balance.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably one of the things CrossFit does best. Still, is just that it creates a balanced athlete that can do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. That's kind of the goal, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we did, and it was very successful for a decent amount of time. We had the gyms for 13 years before we sold them, and I mean, can't complain. It was a good time.
And then didn't you guys end up doing some kind of a CrossFit Games in the Quad Cities?
Yeah, so that when the competition stuff started, there really wasn't many competitions locally of any sort, just like the regionals and sectionals and stuff to try to make it to the games. So we started, I think it would have been 2012 or 13. We started, the first one we did was called the Christmas Classic.
Okay.
And we did that at PepsiCo Center. Awesome because it had an indoor track and, plenty of space. And I think we did that for 6 years or so
Oh,
before
wow.
before we decided. And we did move locations once, tried something else. I think we went to the Expo Center over in Rock Island and did it there one year. And then we did Urban Street Games, which the reason that even came about was Kyle Peters, a real good friend of mine, went to high school together, and he had been doing a dodgeball tournament down in the district as like a fun thing to do
Yeah.
to just bring people down there to his bar and whatever. And I think they did that for like 10 years. Me and my CrossFit friends actually won it the last year they did it, and so it's kind of a fun deal. But he's like, hey, we should do something down here. Do you know what you want to do, like a some sort of like CrossFit thing? And I was like, yeah, let's check it out. So we came up with the name Urban Street Games and played with some stuff down there, and that actually ended up being our biggest,
Yeah.
event that we did. We did that for probably 5 or 6 years as well. We were getting 350 athletes or so to come in and from just all over the Midwest, and it was pretty sweet. It was a 3 day competition, and it was a super good time.
And was so maybe for people don't know, like,
Yeah.
are these regionals and then nationals and all that, are they always the same events? And if not,
Mm-mm.
what are there's variations, but there's
Yeah.
specific movements and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I
And
think
you
there's a
know ahead of time so you can train for them.
kind of, yeah. So
Okay.
I'd say the thing that's pretty cool about CrossFit, especially back then, was yeah, there was a kind of a general way to train, and there was a list of movements that you
Yeah.
would do, but to the point like I'm gonna make, like, we specifically would not let people know what the workouts were till like right before. We would
Oh,
give
okay.
hints, and we would do some pretty off the wall stuff. I mean, we actually did a tug of war like one time, and I mean, who's training for that?
Yeah,
Like, but
right.
it's like just testing your fitness and your strength. One of the years at Urban Street Games, we actually had like a little mini like duathlon for the team, and I rented a bunch of canoes, and we actually had a 2-person canoe race out in the slough. And then you came in and tagged your partner, and then like 2 people ran down to Sylvan Island, ran around Sylvan Island and back. And so
Oh, wow.
we did a bunch of really off the wall stuff to try to like keep people guessing.
Yeah,
And
right.
I guess like the point of it for me always was, yeah, the competitions are cool, but more than that, like I always had like a passion, and still do, for people to go to a gym, get fit, figure things out, like get healthy, and then go out and do like whatever type of competition or event interests them, whether that be a duathlon or run
Right.
trails or
Yeah.
whatever. That's always kind of been the goal.
Yeah.
So
No, that's really cool. Plus, you
yeah,
get the team, the camaraderie,
yeah, for
the
sure.
accountability, right? That's another
Yeah,
thing with the groups. It's all
absolutely.
about accountability. And I stress to people all the time that think they want to be a solo runner. And a lot of people don't have time to meet up and all that kind of,
Yeah,
I get it. But I don't think I ever made as much gain or progress until I joined a group of
100%.
running guys, or gals. And we've got a pretty good core group. You
Yeah,
guys had your little core group of
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Um, and it's just kind of cool to see. So that I bet the camaraderie too with the teams was
absolutely.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now all along that whole time with the CrossFit stuff, tell me about like your job and how did you balance all that stuff? Because it seems like a lot of
So
time.
So yeah, when we within the first year of us opening the gym, I quit my day job. Like, I was traveling around selling concrete equipment at the time, and it just got to be too much, I guess. It got to a point like in my head, Josiah was there full time, and then it was basically one of those things where we're gonna have to hire more people, or I'm gonna have to like step up and be a part of this on a day-to-day basis. And ironically, like 2008, 2009, 10, like the concrete construction industry got a little weird.
Yeah.
And so the timing was perfect that way. I was just like, you know what, this is already getting quite difficult to do. This is the right time to do it. So we jumped over, and, it was interesting for a while, just because, we have 2 families running a small business, and financially that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
But we were passionate about it. We loved it. So it was worth it,
How
for
many,
sure.
how many people did you guys end up with that work there?
So I think the most we ever had was like, I think maybe like 16 coaches at
Oh,
one
wow.
point.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we always had probably between 7 to 10, coaches. But when we had all the gyms, and, I remember sitting around a staff meeting one time when, all the gyms come together, and it's like, this is a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah.
pretty crazy. So yeah, there was a period of time I think we had around 16. Yeah.
And you guys now it's a small business. Did you have like benefits and all that kind of stuff too, and payroll and
We had
taxes
payroll
and
and taxes, but the benefits side, we never really went down that rabbit hole too far. Just, Most of our coaches were part-time. We had a couple that I would call full-time as far
Uh-huh.
as like hours go. But yeah, that was it's a tough thing. I don't really ever envy anybody that runs a small business of that size. You start to get big enough to where those things become expected, but that's a hard road to go down. So
Yeah.
thankfully, I'll be honest, like Josiah was better at all that stuff than I ever was. And, between having, him, and then we had a couple of, his sister worked for us for a while. We hired Becky Meneses. We hired people to kind of help us with that side of it because that definitely was not my forte.
So, when did you start kind of winding it down? And then did you start biking first or running first?
I started running. So
So, yeah.
I always rode bicycles my whole life just because of the dirt bike correlation was there. But yeah, I got into running really about the same time Kyle did into trail running. Greg Hansen was actually the guy that's introduced both of us to trail running, I think, around the same time. I actually went and ran a Spartan race with Greg.
Okay.
I don't even know what year it would have been, but shortly after we opened the gym. And I had never really ran trails, and that was different than running trails, but had some similarity. And I kind of fell in love with it just because it felt playful. Like I felt like I was
You're on the
a
woods or
kid
something
goofing
on the
around,
trail.
and
Yeah.
like it just had an exhilarating feel to it, where I felt like it was like bringing back some of my, from being a motocrosser and like watching the corners and lines and seeing what's there. Like there was more to it than
Yeah.
just running down the road and
Yeah.
staring at the
Not getting hit
asphalt.
by a car.
Right, fair. That's the only obstacle you have to deal with. But yeah, so I got into it then. Started running with Kyle quite a bit around that same time period. And Kyle and I had known each other mainly because I'd known him from riding bicycles. He was an amazing, bike rider back when we were for Standard back in the day. And then knew him from there a little bit, but he was quite a bit younger. And then when he was doing MMA still, um, he came to the gym through Colby Lopez, actually, is how we linked up and started training him for MMA. And so when he got into running, it was just kind of a natural thing that we both took off and ran together for quite a few years. So, yeah.
Yeah. And now it seems like I see you have, so talk about your family now, because now you
Yeah.
have three kids
hmm
and that evolution through that, now being a father. And now I see that, is it your son that does the BMX?
He
He's
did for a few
sorta,
years. Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
doing it
No.
anymore. Yeah. Um,
No.
when did you, so running wise, you got into trails
Yep.
and then, I think the first race that I remember seeing you at and going was when we went up to do the Earth Day.
Okay.
Yeah, Earth Day
Yeah.
50K. That
Yep.
was pretty cool.
That was a good event.
Yeah, speaking of that, when we were there, Michelle Hartwig
Yep.
is the race director.
Correct.
She's the honorary mule
Yep.
company thing. And she agreed to do the podcast next week, I
Oh,
think.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I've
She's
known,
go ahead.
no, see, I know Michelle.
Yeah.
Kyle and I met her when she worked at Innovate.
Okay.
And so she was the Innovate rep for a few years, and she would come down, and I think we did this 2 or 3 times, and she'd bring a truck full of shoes, and Kyle and I would put on like a trail run
Oh,
day,
yeah.
and then like she'd bring shoes out and people would test them out. So that's how I met her. And that's honestly that 50K was the first one I'd ever done, and that
Ah,
was kind of why I chose that one is because I knew her and she kind of talked me into it a little bit. But yeah, she's been a huge staple in trail running in the
yeah.
Midwest. Like she's done a really good
Yeah,
job.
I'm really excited to talk to her. I mean,
And she's
she's
kind of
got,
gotten back into it herself now.
yes, I've noticed that.
Like for a period of time, she sort of took the back seat
Race
and
director
race
and
director, and then now I see her out, and dude, she's like lost a ton of weight, looks super good, and I think she's been kind of killing it again. So it's awesome.
yeah, she's got some really amazing races. I mean, that Earth Day, I think she does Frozen Gnome, but
hmm
Kettle Moraine
Yep.
is her race,
Yep.
and that's pretty cool. I mean, that just happened, I think last month maybe. It
It
was
might have been.
recent.
Yeah, it was pretty
This
recent.
month or last month. It was July, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like it either happened or it's ready to happen.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I know a couple people that done that one. But that Earth Day one was very interesting. You know, we
Yeah.
had Kyle and Kelly came and I remember we were all jammed in my BMW driving up there. So stupid.
Well, I mean, the coolest part
Like
about that for me was to see like Kelly, I think, had only ran 8 miles
yeah, like the
previous,
longest. Yeah.
and then like went out and just like
Yeah.
did like I mean, it was a tough day. I
Yeah.
mean, so yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but you guys, you and Brendan, and was it you, Brendan,
Clark,
and Clark,
yeah,
yeah. And Stacy ran it too, or she was just
I
there?
think maybe she ran the 15,
Oh, okay.
the half,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty certain
That was the fun one.
that was good. But yeah, no, trail running was like well, the cool part to tie in some of that to like the gym stuff is it was interesting, and it gave me a lot of experience in like what does gym work, what does strength work, what does training do for like a trail runner or like a runner or an
Hmm.
athlete. And I think we did CrossFit endurance stuff and went did some training and classes, but in real time dealing with like Kyle as a runner and helping him train and kind of learning experimentally through him and then later with Phil Young and like working with him quite a bit. Um, it's crazy to see when done right, like strength training and fitness and just general fitness, how that ties into being a not only just like a fast runner, but one that doesn't get hurt and one that can do it week in, week out. And
Hmm.
so that became kind of a big passion of mine for a period of time. And trying to train runners is interesting. They're they're a little bit on the frugal side when it comes to like they don't want to pay for anything, and I
Right.
and I and I get it. They're like, I just buy shoes and then I do
Right.
fitting, and I understand that.
And that's
Um,
expensive.
yeah, right, yeah. But it was always a pretty big passion to kind of train runners because it was really neat to see the progress you could make with kind of minimal training, to be honest with you. So, and I know we've talked a lot about that in the past, like you've experienced the ups and downs of strength training or not or whatever. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree. I mean, I had on Mike Barty, and Mike, I don't know if you know him, but I mean, the guy has like all these world records and
Hmm.
long distance trails, everything. And what like how I knew about him was on Instagram that he does all this functional
Yeah,
training with the run for the running.
yeah,
And like you said, it's more about longevity and not getting injury prevention and all that. And I mean, if you talk to any of the guys that I already mentioned and
yeah,
interviewed, like if you're not doing some strength
yeah.
training, you're
Yep.
hurt.
Yep, for
It's
sure.
inevitable. I started adding it long time ago,
Yeah.
and it's just a part of
Well,
being a
especially as we
runner.
age, it's
Yes.
like, you don't get away with as much stuff. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
um, no, so actually, you've been kind of back at it, I feel like a little more than before. Yeah. Like, I feel
The
like,
running or
no, the
lifting?
running.
Oh, the running, yeah. I mean, I go through, I got hurt. I stress fractured like the outside of my left foot.
Hmm.
And that put me back like 8 weeks and got screwed up with. I was in a boot. And then I was like, this is stupid. I don't know what is really wrong.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening out of all of it was my ankles were like collapsing.
Okay.
Like I've sprained my ankles or,
Yep.
run the trail and you just like your ankle hits the ground before your foot and you're like,
100%.
that's gonna hurt.
Yep.
And so they were like, look, your ligaments are so loose and your ankles are kind of collapsing. You need to do all this rehab. And I met this woman, I can't remember her name, and she's gonna kill me, but she was a Genesis
Okay.
and it was on 53rd. And we did literally started like kind of like when I hurt my back when you
Yep.
were showing me like,
Yep.
okay, you got to start over,
Yep.
like start over. Um, with single leg balancing
Yeah.
and then working from there. But like when you looked at my ankle, it was literally like they were,
Collapsed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I would hit the ground, it was all like
Yep.
this, right? So I learned that, and then I just started doing all this balance work, one foot, stand on one foot, do calf raises with one foot,
Yeah.
and like trying to learn how to keep my balance. And like that has just kind of rejuvenated me. And um,
It's always funny to like, I was having this conversation with somebody recently about like the ankle and foot
uh,
and like, we'll expect to be like runners, which if you break it down, you're on one foot the whole time. Like
right,
you're
that's it.
there's
You're
no two
never on
feet on the
two.
ground,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Like,
right.
but then like if you try to suggest to a runner they should stand on one foot and get better at it, they're like, it doesn't seem like a relevant
Yeah,
thing to do. It's just such a wild thing that we like as runners like overlook that you need to be able to balance on one foot well.
yeah.
Like it's wild.
Yeah, I remember like, and I used to read like crazy and listen to podcasts and all that kind of stuff. Even if you're doing like leg extensions,
Yeah.
do one leg at a time.
Yeah.
You know, there's machines now and like, lunges as
Yep.
opposed to squats. And I
Yeah.
do squats. The thing that changed for me on squats was we go to the Quad City Performance because it's
Yeah.
right down the street and those guys are awesome. Um, is on a slant board
Yeah.
and it disengages your Achilles and you're not putting
Yeah.
all the stress in because I've had Achilles issues. So I've had every injury you can
You're like, I just
possibly
have the
think of.
list.
But it's funny you mentioned about how like runners and I felt like I was the same way for a long time where I didn't want to do legs because you're running all the time and you're
Right.
like, well, what day should I do
Yeah.
heavy squats or
I have to I have to do intervals the next day
right,
and I can't,
right.
no, I get it.
And the other thing I remember, Huberman had on this guy. He was like a Russian Olympic weightlifting trainer way back in like the
Yeah.
70s. Okay, and it just hit me like I was like, duh. He said, there's a difference between bodybuilding, weightlifting,
for sure.
and strength training.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, he's so right. So like as that was like a year ago, and I was like, I'm just gonna do strength training. I don't need to do leg extensions. I don't need to
Right.
do shoulder, this, that. I just need to do the basics
Yeah.
to stay
And
functional.
that
Like,
that's a thing, like, I don't know, if you're familiar with it, like West Side Barbell, which is known for like building the biggest powerlifters or strongest powerlifters, especially in the United States. But they were always, Louis Simmons passed away now, but he was always very intelligent about like runners and how to train marathon runners and different people. Shane Sweat, who's kind of his predecessor, like he's in the same boat. And I had some conversations with him over the years. But to your point, like I think that's what happens to runners a lot is they get roped into like training like a bodybuilder because that's all somebody that's showing
yeah,
them knows how to do, and they don't get the results they want, and they're blown up and they're doing too much hypertrophy work and they're putting on muscle, maybe probably not, but maybe a little bit, but either way they're not doing what they should be doing. And that was something like we tried really hard to like educate people, like, I know you've tried to work out, but probably not the right way, so
right.
give me a chance to,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is like as a runner, obviously you don't want to really get any bigger. You don't want to like do a bunch of hypertrophy work and be fatigued, and it's more about the neurological adaptation of like strength work, like teaching your body that it needs to be strong so that it actually has that trigger.
Hmm.
And it's crazy if you do it right how well it works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I've just seen it across the board.
Yeah,
So
like I don't do more than 6 reps in anything anymore.
yeah, yeah,
And that's just like within the last year.
yeah,
Because I would go and do lift to failure, or I would try
yeah,
to bench. Like, why am I even building my upper body like for bulk instead of
yeah,
the training for strength is
yeah.
totally different.
Well, and that's what I always just tell people. It's like you need to either do. So if you're listening, it's you. You to the point, like you should be doing like one, threes or fives to like build, your CNS to like actually want to be strong, and then you should be doing like 40 to 50 to 70 reps for like ligament and tendon strength. Like the ground in between is like it's like bodybuilding or getting strong, which is not if you want to aesthetically look better, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
that's what it's there for. But if you're just talking running performance, that middle ground is kind of not, it's like the no man's land to a degree. So it's interesting, but
Yeah. So let's switch gears again,
yeah,
literally to biking. And I
yeah,
remember when I was training for marathons, I had to, and had a family, and I didn't want my time to impact the kids' time and family. I was getting up at 4 in the morning and running, right?
yep.
And then I don't know what it was, but I had this crazy idea that maybe biking um, was gonna be less time, right?
That's not
And
true.
so yeah, I know. So that's what I'm getting at. I remember I got a bike out in Boston. I remember there was a bike shop in Wayland, Mass, and someone had like ordered this custom Le Mans Alpe d'Huez bike.
Okay.
Okay, and the guy never came and picked it up. So I went to the bike shop. I didn't know any better, and I was like, oh, I'll buy that for $1,800, and this is like in
Yeah.
2003 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember finding a group and riding, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm gone for like 4 hours. This is
Yeah.
longer than my long runs.
Yeah.
And I just was I got into it though, and I really loved it and I enjoyed it. It was similar to going from like the pavement to the trail.
Yeah.
On the bike, we were driving on the streets, but it was like in the woods, like
Yeah.
of a wooded area, and it was really cool, but it was just too much time.
It is time
And
consuming.
and I picked it up again later on, but you made the transition from running to
Yeah. I
biking.
mean, I got it. Like I said, trail running was my thing for quite a while. And the endurance tribe group we put together was, that's what we did and ran a bunch of races together. And there was a few years of a heyday that like we
Yeah,
were running 50Ks on like the random weekends. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It was a good time. I ran into a bunch of injuries with that too, just like, and a lot of them were silly, acute stuff. Like I rolled an ankle bad enough to where I was stubborn and wouldn't let it heal, and it just was reoccurring,
mhm,
and it kept me out of racing and all kinds of things. So I started riding bicycles again when a couple of my friends got back into it too, from my past life, so to speak, and jumped on gravel bikes and found that. I'm not a road bike guy, still am not. Especially the area we live in. I think it's road biking around here is pretty trash compared to some areas. But
yeah,
so we ride gravel just so we can get out in the country and enjoy it. And honestly, it definitely scratched an itch for me from like tying motocross stuff
hmm,
a little bit, two-wheeled sports back into just the endurance sport thing that I found with trail running and the challenge of that. So yeah, I kind of went all in and started racing mountain bikes a little bit, and fat bikes when I could, and gravel bikes, and kind of all the things. So Um, it's complicated compared to running, as in, I mean, I think I have like 9 bicycles
Yeah, that's
because you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, you can build a single speed gravel bike and a single speed mountain bike and a, and there's the whole N plus one. So whatever you have, you should always build one more, right? But yeah, so running was simpler, and in a lot of ways just as enjoyable. But as of right now, like I love riding my bike, and I
yeah.
got back into running a little bit this year, just to kind of like it was one of those things where I asked myself earlier in the year, I was like, can I still run a 50K? And I was like, I don't know. I better find out. Like it's
Yeah,
important for me to be able to do that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so mainly bicycles right now, just to kind of riding and racing gravel, mountain bikes when I can, and then a little bit of running. So.
So I'm assuming, and it's a big assumption because I don't know and I
Mhm.
don't ride um, races, I'll call it. But like with Ultra Sign Up, on running, you can find a race every weekend
Yeah.
anywhere within
Yes.
100 mile. You can actually sort by 250 miles, 500 miles,
Yep.
100 miles, 50 mile, and there's something always
Yep.
going on in the running, either the trails or road racing.
Yep.
Is there something similar with bikes?
Yeah, so bikereg.com is
Okay,
basically the ultra sign up of, of
of
bicycling.
bikes.
So, yeah, and it categorizes the same way, from gravel to cyclocross to road to mountain to whatever. Same thing, you search, same way. And so, yeah, there's races all the time. It's actually a little bit of an issue in the gravel side is there's just so many races right
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah, it's like it's
Wow,
almost
didn't
like
even do that.
over like,
Really?
yeah, it's almost overdone. Like if you're
Hmm.
putting on a race, because I put a few races on still, and when you start looking at dates, you start playing with all the disciplines, and like you're like, I don't know when I can, I don't know
Fit
when I
it
can
in.
put this thing in,
Yeah.
So, we have like a local series, Big River Gravel. A friend of mine, Luke Guyton, puts that on, and like we're racing this weekend, and I
Oh,
forget,
really?
yeah, yeah, we start in Erie, so that he has a 4 race series that he does, and then Iowa Gravel Series has a bunch of races. There's a lot, so it's pretty
No, that's
crazy.
cool to know. I didn't know anything about that. And I see your Strava, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, man, how do you fit it all in?
Yeah, I mean, a patient wife, I guess,
I
is part
guess.
of the. No, I mean, I think that for me, and this could be an excuse if you want it to be whatever, but I grew up like we talked. I raced every weekend. I was on the bike, so it's a pretty normal feel for me to be
Yeah.
like that engaged.
Yep.
I have a really hard time doing stuff at half mast, so to
Oh,
speak. It's
yeah.
like
No,
I
I get
just
it.
what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
it's like if I'm gonna race, I want to race well,
Yep.
and that takes training and time. And I mean, to be fair, I ride my bike way less than I want to.
Yeah.
As well, it's
Well,
like you
it
know what I
seems
mean. Like
like it.
it's like but I try to be realistic about my expectations when it comes to racing because I am 40, I'm almost 45,
Yeah.
and I do have 3 kids, and I travel for work, and so there's guys out there that I know personally that are they put in 16, 20 hours a week on the bike. And,
So
that's,
comparable to like say you're running, and I would say on the high side, if you're not training for a race, like 40 to 50 miles of running, what's a comparable mileage for bike?
if you're doing like gravel stuff, mountain biking is obviously slower, so it's a little bit different. But I'd say for me, I try to hit 100 miles a week. It's like, I wouldn't call it the minimum, but I like to at least hit that, right? Um, and when I'm maybe in more of a peak season and I have the opportunity to, I'd say an average week for me is like 130 to 150 on mileage, which rolls over to like 7, 8, 9 hour range, depending on kind of where you're at, on the bike. So
And so 150, you're talking 20 something miles a day.
yeah, if that's how you break it down,
You
yeah.
know,
But similar to running training, like
might do a
that,
50 miler or whatever.
yeah, like that's the thing with all endurance sports, in my opinion. And I mean, I think you probably feel the same way. Like if you're doing, I don't know, let's say you're doing 50 miles a week running, like one of your runs should be near half of like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, a long
And
run.
so
Yep.
it's similar for
Okay.
cycling. Like I try to get one longer one in at some point if I can. So yeah.
And so you mentioned it, and I kind of not like skipped over it, but like so similar to running, you have um the trail race bikes and
Mhm.
then gravel bikes. So what they're different?
Yeah, so like a gravel bike is essentially, I'd say, a cross between, a road bike and a mountain bike. It's gonna have drop bars like a road bike,
Okay.
but it's gonna have the capacity to run like a wider tire. And the geometry of the bike is a little more relaxed and stable, so that it's not as twitchy in the gravel or the dirt or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
terrain
yeah.
you're on. So yeah, it's kind of a mix between the two. I mean, it's really funny if someone was really into bikes. A lot of people are like, the gravel bikes are like the old cross country mountain bikes from like the 90s. Like they're
Okay.
literally like very similar with drop bars on them. So yeah, I mean I mean, in any market, like whatever you market, it's going to sell, right? And so when the
You need
gravel
to fight for
stuff,
this.
yeah, when the gravel bikes came on the scene, like it was like the thing. And so, I mean, it's crazy, even in the last few years, the changes that have happened.
So for the people around here, where are these bikes being sold?
So
Not
healthy,
Walmart.
no, Healthy Habits is
Yeah.
is they have the best, as far as options. They sell quite a few brands. And Trek Store sells them as well. Trek Store being a Trek store, they only sell
Yeah.
Trek. So I mean, that's obviously harder if you're into a Trek, cool. If not, that's you're kind of screwed there a little bit. But and then Right Cycle over in Moline has a bunch of bikes. They sells like Kona and different brands too. But we most of the stuff we do, like kind of the team I'm riding on right now, we go through Healthy Habits.
Okay.
They sponsor our team, and they, like I said, the cool part is they host group rides every week. Like
Hmm.
last night, we did Tuesday night gravel, and we actually had like our first C group ride, which is a little slower, a little less mileage, that we've had in a long time. And we had 35 people last night,
Wow.
so pretty big group that's kind of growing, which is, as you know, has always been like a passion of mine, just to get new people into sports. And even on the trail running side, that was like one of the things I love the most is like getting somebody out and then having them be like,
This is
dude, this
awesome.
is awesome.
Yeah.
I never knew about this. And so
Yeah.
kind of trying to do the same thing with gravel right now and just get people involved. And but yeah, so we've been doing a lot with Healthy, and Dan races, and Bruce, who owns Healthy Habits, has been a strong advocate for racing in the Quad Cities. And so it's nice to work with those guys because they know what they're doing. So
Those guys are unbelievable. I bought a mountain bike like you were talking about in
yep.
like 1998.
Hmm.
It's just a specialized, it's got shocks in the front, but 1998. It's still in my garage right now.
Yeah,
And I've had them work on it
yeah.
a couple times just to
Just
tune it
keep it
up.
rolling.
Yeah. And we bought the kids' bikes there. And before my youngest could ride, we had the tag along we bought
Yeah.
there. And those guys have just like, even if you don't buy a bike from them, they'll fix your bike.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
Totally take care
they're
of it.
awesome. And then Tracy and I just got into e-bikes. Now don't knock it
Dude,
until
I
you
like
try it,
e-bikes. I got a
dude.
few.
Trust
I
me.
got a few. No, you're
These
good.
bikes we have are unbelievable. But anyway, we didn't know this, but we rode up there, and if you go to um, God,
Crawford.
Crawford,
Yeah.
you get like $2 off a
Yeah.
beer or something.
Free ride up. Yeah.
I think that's pretty
I
cool.
think they on a Tuesday night when 35 of us ride in to have beers, they're probably like,
Doesn't really even
no,
know. Yeah,
no,
we're gonna
no.
lose money tonight.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a big difference between the gravel bike and a road bike, and you're
Hmm.
saying so like road biking around here, it's not
There's
that
a
great. I
group. I
mean,
mean, like
it's
Wednesday nights there's a great group. QCBC still does a lot of stuff. I just think personally, my
yeah,
opinion,
yeah,
I just don't think that we have great road biking based on like
safe
it's just yeah, it's
road
sketchy.
biking, right? Yeah,
It's
I've heard that from a lot of people, and
yeah,
I've only rode bike around here maybe for a couple
yeah,
years. I was riding with like Mike Horsfield and this guy Tom Burr, and it was we were talking going to Argo Corner was like holding my breath
yeah,
going down that road. I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah. No,
probably
it
like
is, and it's
70
just
miles an
sketchy and
hour.
like, and not to pick on the Quad Cities, but I will. The the culture around cycling sucks here, if I'm honest. Like there's pockets and groups like we have,
Yeah.
the 35 people are awesome and like that's cool. But like the general perception of a cyclist in the Quad Cities is like you're in the way, you're a problem, we don't like you. And it's just you can just feel it. You know what I mean? And so you roll to like Madison, go to Iowa
Oh
City,
yeah, yeah.
and
We were
like
just in Madison.
and it's
Yeah, it's
funny, like you roll up on a bike like in Madison, and people are like, "Oh, hey, what's
yeah,
up? Go,
yeah,
go, go!
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have a good
Right,
ride."
right.
Around here, they're like flipping you off, and
Yeah,
they're pissed, and they get a car, and like yell. It's just not the same. So
yeah.
that's why we either go to the trails or we head out in the country where there's there's
That's what I was
nobody.
going to ask you
Yeah,
because, like, I know I've driven out by the middle school here in PV,
yeah.
and one time I went like the wrong way, and I was like, I'm on this gravel road, and I'm like, oh man, this thing's like never ending. But they're out there, right?
Yeah.
Is there like so Fork is one of the other
So Fork
organizations that
is
does
Friends
the
of Off-Road Cycling
trails.
is like the trails. They
Yeah.
maintain, build, and everything that's mountain bike. You know what I mean? Besides Scott Community College, which the shop Healthy Habits takes care of that one. But yeah, so that's Fork, and that's kind of the thing is like there's really not like a gravel association of any sort that like it's really like so the Gravel Degenerates is like the group that I ride with. They've been around for a long time, And that's kind of what we're trying to do is just introduce people to gravel and provide routes and stuff
Yeah,
and
that's
show
what I was going to
people.
ask you about. Where can
Yeah,
someone go other than Fort
yeah,
to find the gravel routes, and how do you get there? You get a bike out there or drive
yeah.
out there and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
so I would say the easiest way to do it is to jump on like Strava
Yeah.
and find the Gravel
Oh,
Degenerates group
uh-huh.
and join it
Yeah.
because then we post routes all the time and you can
Okay.
just steal them from there. And the Facebook group for Gravel Degenerates as well. If someone were to jump on and say, "Hey, I'm looking for some routes," like there's 40 of us that could just fire, "Hey, how long? Where do you want to go? Like, what are you looking for?" And we could, I think my Garmin has like 180 routes on
Oh,
it, or
yeah.
whatever, you know what I mean,
But
to
most of
ride.
the
So
time you're driving your bike out to somewhere to
so
start.
like we start at Healthy Habits a lot because
Okay.
you can just cruise straight up Devils,
Yep.
and then pop over. It kind of sucks to go across the middle to get out there, or we go. There's a little back road from there, um, or like start at Twin Span or somewhere out TBK area
Yep.
because you can pop out quick. I've done a few rides from Argo
Yeah.
because you can just jump on gravel from there. So yeah, we try to. I mean, where I live, I can ride the bike path up to any of those spots. So I mean, I'll that's typically what I'll do. But yeah, if you're gonna jump out and try to ride gravel on the Iowa side, um, more than likely you're gonna have to either start like somewhere near a bike path or towards the north side of town so you can get out quick. But to be honest, like since we're talking about it, the Illinois side of gravel is when you get out towards Andalusia, that's the good stuff.
Oh,
Like
really? Okay.
the roads are better. It's a little more hilly, a little more scenic, like no traffic. And so it's pretty awesome. We try to go out there occasionally and ride as well. So
And then with the gravel, I mean, let's talk safety for a minute.
yeah,
Helmet, gloves, clip
yeah.
in.
I clip. I mean, we had some guys last night, some new guys that weren't clipped, which I totally understand. You don't want to be the guy that pulls up to a stop sign
And falls
and
over.
just, we've all seen that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say the main things, obviously running a helmet, a really good light, like get
Oh,
yourself a
yeah.
blinker on the back that works, not a Walmart one.
Yeah.
Like go to the shop, like ask what one's best for that scenario, just because it's again way less traffic out there, but you still obviously want to be visible
Yes.
as much as you can. And then we were joking around on a ride the other day, but it's like as much as I don't love bright colored kits, like I try to wear bright colored kits because it's like you want to be seen when you're out there. And then honestly, on a bike, like a lot of people ask me about tires and things and whatever. Anymore, the tire technology, like you can get a really fast rolling wide tire. I highly suggest that for people because it's more stable. It's not gonna knife through the gravel as much. So I see people that'll go out on like a 35 mil tire and try to ride gravel, and it's like from a safety perspective, it's not good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just sketchy. So, but yeah, other than that, it's whatever kit you're comfortable in, but obviously wearing a helmet and making sure you're visible is the biggest thing, just like anything else on cycling. So,
So let me ask you this
mhm.
I'll compare it to running.
Yeah,
We have a group, and let's just say, Kurt and I and Austin and Emily, we're going to meet on Saturday and going to run 20 miles.
yeah,
We know what pace we're going to go.
yeah,
Okay. And sometimes it's kind of sucky when you get hurt and you're like, well, I can't hang with them because they
right,
run a different pace. Is it like that in bike? So like,
yeah.
hey, I'm going to go ride with Brandon. He's going to average 19 miles an hour.
So I'd say the group rides that are published, like the ones we're doing from Healthy Habits, which is right now there's a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Okay.
The Tuesday is growing. It's the B and C group. So we have two different speeds. So what you get into, you get into. The C group's like we say it's going to average between like 12 and 14 mile an hour. B group's going to be like 16, 17. That's obviously going to change a little depending on hills and gravel and wind and whatever's
Yeah.
out there. But how we try to treat it is someone leads a group. They try to keep the pace down, keep the group together. We'll regroup when we need to. But then, at the same time, like yesterday, I was leading the B group. I circled back a couple times and
Mm,
just hung out. Like there's always a group leader that's going to take care of everybody to make sure they're not stranded out there or
yeah.
have a mechanical or something like
Yep.
that. Thursday nights is like full send. Like
Okay.
it's like ramjet. Like it's you basically we put on there download the route. This is a drop route. If you get dropped, you're on your own, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of but that's kind of the
But the
nature of that
expectation
one,
is set.
right?
Yeah. That's
So
kind of my point. Like, I'm not gonna
100%,
like I always hear, and I used to hear, people would say, we can't run with you because you guys are running too fast. And I'm
yeah,
like, well, it depends.
right,
If it's a Tuesday morning,
yep,
shakeout, or if it's a Wednesday work where we're doing a
exactly,
fartlek or a
yep,
hard run, or if it's Saturday long run, there's definitely different paces,
yeah.
and
Well,
it's kind of
you used to
intimidating
give me a hard
sometimes.
time. I don't know if you remember, but you'd always like comment on my Strava. You're running too fast.
Yeah.
Like
Hey,
I know you weren't
I
wrong.
mean,
I was really bad at that.
I was that way for the longest time when I was running, and that, running marathons and training for marathons, it was always about pace and
Yep.
splits, and you're like, God, I gotta hit these splits, and it was so stressful. And then when I started getting into the off-road stuff, it was like, hey, well, just hang
Yeah.
out. Like if you think you're gonna go run 6-minute miles on the trail, good luck.
Yeah.
Then you're world
Yeah.
class.
You're gonna bury yourself
Yeah,
in probably 3 miles and be done, you know.
yeah, oh yeah.
Um, so for fun, I was gonna ask you just because you've been around the endurance world a long time now and obviously done a ton of these podcasts with, different guys. Um, what's like your how do I want to say this? What's the correlation and what's the things you're seeing between endurance sports and training for them for over the years and then just like everyday life? What's the parallel to you that like stands out the most um to where like you feel like it's given you benefit in life?
Oh yeah,
I'm curious because you've been doing this a long time.
yeah. So I'll first start with the running part of it, and my kind of like philosophy about the running part is that you have to do the stuff we started talking about, which is you have to be physically fit, right? You have to be in somewhat
General
shape.
fitness.
You have to
Yeah.
have general fitness, and you have to kind of be in shape. And then you can work yourself into being able to run 50 Ks
Yeah.
and 100 Ks and 100 milers physically. But I will say what it is to me, I think the mental part of it is you have the ability to quit at any time, and
Yeah.
you're going to want to quit when it gets hard.
Yep.
But I feel like if you can push through those times, because there's going to be 1,000 of them where you're just going to be, you could fall into, I want to just give up.
Yep.
So comparable to life and with family and a job and all that, I feel like it's a similar thing where work can be a stressful,
For
it could be
sure.
a stressful day. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right? What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You can cry and go home,
Yep.
or you got to muscle through it, right? And that's all in your head at that
100%.
point, right? Whether you're laying concrete or whether you're working in an office, I feel like you can, if you can push yourself physically using your brain to go past those hard points, you can work through most
Yeah.
anything at work, right? It
100%.
becomes way less. We
Yeah.
talked about it on a few of the podcasts, and I would say the correlation is that maybe it comes with maturity too. You
Yeah.
know, when I remember talking to John Byrne and about Leadville in 2012, he was like rattling off all the stats, and he's like, it's an older person's race, meaning
Yeah.
like 40 and over
Yeah.
are the ones that are smart. They're educated enough where they know to hold back,
Right.
and they've had the experience of failing,
100%.
and they were able to go and say, all right, what do I need to do now to get better at that, or to make sure I don't quit.
And so do you think like the thing that's cool about it that I agree with you 100%. And like one of the best ways I've ever heard it put, it was funny when Joe Rogan was actually interviewing Courtney DeWalter
Oh yeah.
and he's like, "Why do you think you're better than everybody?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't think I am." And he's like, "That's not what I asked you. You are better than everybody. Like, why do you think?" And she basically was like, "I don't know. I think I'm maybe a better problem solver." And what's it's that stuck with me. And like I
Yeah.
look at all the things I do
Yeah.
and like there's the drawing the parallel between like being out on a long run and running out of water. I thought it sounds stupid, but like stuff like that happens and like
100%.
and
Yeah.
having the option of like, well, I could just call somebody to come get me or like I'll slow down or I won't hit my marks or whatever it is, but it's like you start to like solve problems
hmm
as you're and I think the key with endurance sports, it's crazy that you don't really get in a lot of other areas is you're problem solving as you're suffering. Like you don't get to stop,
Yeah.
right? Like it's so
Yeah.
like in life, right? You're like you keep moving and then figure it out. And I think that that's an interesting thing. And like I ask you because again, I know a lot of guys in the sports too, and we have these conversations sometimes, and I've seen some of them succeed. Like Bren Rashke, for an example.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like he's one of the mentally toughest dudes I've met when it comes to running. But then like when he finally pulled the trigger and opened his own business, like sky was the limit because I feel like he was able to take the same things he learned and put them into practice. But
hmm
do you have, I mean, a lot of the guys you talk to so far with like Byrne and
hmm
Donker, like, do you see the parallel in their lives? Like,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting.
absolutely. And it's funny, like Mike Wardian, the guy that I did that interview with, we started off the podcast. It got screwed up. Like I had Zoom.
I saw you talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, it's always about problem solving. And the parallel to running when you say endurance, to me, endurance is anything like 50K and above.
Yep.
The longer you're doing it, the more chances something is going to go wrong,
There's
right? I
almost a
mean, there's
guarantee.
nobody that I know, like Evan Kihlstrom, which he's like an anomaly. He's the
Yeah.
one that, played football at Iowa State and
Yeah.
he ran Leadville, 25 years old. I mean, that's insane, number
Yep.
one. But like, um, him, me, the Donker, Kurt, everyone, Austin, anyone has run into an issue where you ran out of water.
Yeah.
Like everybody's run out of water. And like you said, you could go and call somebody and come pick you up.
Yep.
But like I remember we were on a long run, the first one I ever did with Byrne and Rick Fountain. We were running up Indiana and we were going way out and we started at Bettendorf High School, but we were doing laps and doing all
Yeah.
stuff. We were at like mile 35
Yep.
and ran out of water. Right. And I'm like, I didn't know how far we were going to run. Like I was an idiot back then. And so, sure, what do? Well, while we ran to a farmhouse, grab the hose, we knock on the door. The lady's like,
Like,
yeah.
what's up?
And it's well water and it's
Yeah.
brown. And you're like, I don't care.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
gotta
go.
drink it.
No,
But
that's true.
solving problems, I agree 100%. I kind of missed that point was like, the longer you're out there, something's going to go wrong. And you're always trying to solve a problem, like
Yeah.
whether it's a shoe, a blister, you're trying to do something. And like you said, and it's when you're exhausted
Yeah,
and you're
that's the
tired
kicker. Yeah.
and you got to like go, your focus has to be only on that one thing. That's
Yeah.
another thing. I feel like there's a parallel between you're in control of your own destiny really when you're out there running, right? No one else is out there helping you, like
Right.
meaning running for you.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing at work, I would say, that you could say, all right, hey, you know, a lot of employers aren't going to handhold you.
No.
You're going to have to figure it
Yep.
out.
Well, and I think it's crazy is like and that's another question maybe I have that see what you think on this, but it's probably one of the reasons I feel like I get so excited about new people getting into whether it's trail running or gravel riding or mountain biking or whatever, is like I get to see these aha moments happen in like for the first time maybe in their life. You know what I mean? Like they've maybe never overcome challenges or they don't really think they can. And like we had some new guys last night riding and it's like they were like, man, normally I go out and I average, 14 mile an hour, 15 is like tonight I stuck with a group and we like 16 and I'm like there's I know that sounds simple,
No, it's not. Yeah.
but it's like that's a huge like
Yeah.
mental step. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that like where how and that's the whole gym world, everything I've ever done that way with fitness. I've always like really appreciated, to see the opportunity to see people, like do something physical that's really mental and overcome something and then go like, I wonder how that's gonna, what that's gonna do for their like marriage. What is it gonna do for their family? What is it gonna
Yeah.
do for their ability to withstand the adversity that's gonna come? So I've always just loved that part of it, and I think it's cool. So
I think the other piece is the competitiveness, right? Because like anyone that has ever played golf, and
yep,
if you're still playing golf, you want to get better every time, right?
right,
I shot at 86, I want to shoot at 84.
yep,
Or like with the fitness, right? Or 5K, I want to run a 5K under 20 minutes. I want to run a marathon under 4 hours.
yeah,
I mean, there's the competitive thing
it's
that
always
gets
there.
you driving, right? So every single business has a goal
Yeah,
and they reset it every year and say, okay, Brandon, you got to drive sales 25% next
yeah,
year. Well, I just did this last year. Well, too bad.
yeah,
And so, like, if you've gone from squatting, 135 to 300,
yeah.
you can do it.
Yeah. Well, it's great. We always joke. There's always been a saying like when people would go like, "You guys ran a 50K on Sunday morning," and I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "That's not normal." It's like, "Yeah, we kind of create our own normal."
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's true.
Well,
Like you up the ante to a
it's
point
that,
where you
right.
you 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 know you raise the ceiling and raise the floor all at the same time, where you're like, "No, it's just what I do,"
Yeah.
and I'm cool with it. And it's like, and I think you can draw that to like with how you handle your kids and your family, and you can do that how you handle your business and all that stuff. And so, but I think it's most genuinely learned well in like an endurance sport of sorts. So anyway,
Yeah. No, the part about setting goals and achieving them, I talked a little bit about this with Byrne. I've been thinking about this for a long time about how, you know, everybody has before they've done something like a baseline of fitness. They have
yeah,
a baseline of this. It's a baseline. And then you look at the difference between, okay, if I, started out, I could only bench 95
hmm
pounds and then I benched 315,
yeah,
my delta is pretty big.
yeah, for sure,
Whereas if you were like just starting out, you're natural and you could run a 5K in 17 minutes and then you ran it in 16, it's like, wow.
yeah,
I mean, you moved a minute. I moved 400 pounds. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like there's definitely has something to do with where you start, right?
for sure,
And
absolutely,
then like you said, you love seeing that progress of people. And we run with a lot of women and like Emily Busey, she'll get like in this funk and I'm like, listen, Emily, you're running, like you said, like 50K on a weekend is no big deal for us. I'm like, you're running with us.
Yeah.
And, Kurt is in amazing shape right now. And I'm praying and hoping he can break his little record for the Bix. But, to run 20 miles with us, sub nines, it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like when you're talking to us, we are just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
But you go say that to someone that doesn't run and
100%.
you're like crazy.
Yeah. No, it is. And there's just a, I mean, there's a general, and it's understandable, but there's a lack of understanding around like times and speeds and running and all those kind of sports. Like a lot of people are just so disconnected from it that they don't even,
Yeah.
there's not even a relevant baseline, right? And that's what's funny sometimes is like, oh yeah, I ran a 100 miler. How long did it take you? Like 20 hours, which is pretty
Yeah.
fast,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just like, oh really? That seems long. You're like, you just have no,
Yeah.
you have no reference for what that even means. But
Yeah.
that's a different conversation. But speaking of the Bix, are you running the Bix?
Yeah. I just signed up. I am gonna and I know I'm gonna do that senior Bex.
What's that mean?
So there's a
Okay.
senior so last year was the 50th
Okay.
anniversary, and so they created an event for over 50
Okay.
year old people, and it's a 2 mile, you can walk, you can run,
Hmm.
the Tuesday the week of the Bix. So I think I'm gonna do that. I didn't do it last year. I don't know why I didn't. I think I kind of deny how old I am, and I was
Yeah,
like, I don't want to,
totally the same.
I just turned 57, and I was like, we were out with some people in Vegas last weekend, and this guy that I know, it's just like ancillary from friends of
Hmm.
Tracy's, whatever. And he's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 57. He's like, "No." I think, "No way." I said, "Dude, don't let me pull my wallet and show
Yeah.
you my license, but I'm 57."
Yeah.
I don't act it,
No.
and whatever. But so I didn't do it last year. I'm gonna do it this year. I don't know if I'm gonna race it, but the Bix itself, Austin he texted me
Mhm.
because I sent him a link. I think he's gonna do the Brady Street,
The sprint?
yeah, tomorrow night to see if he qualifies.
Yeah.
But I sent him a link through Grok. I was like, "What are the fastest, super shoes for this and that and everything?" And so he bought a pair, and I think it's like the Saucony Endorphin
Yeah,
4
yeah.
or something with the carbon and all that. So he was like, he bought a pair, and I'm like, oh, $250. I'm like, just for, I don't know if I can swing that right now, but he bought them. He's like, I'll come by and you can try them out. I was like, all
Yeah.
right. So
I've ran into not those specific, but the Nike ones. You feel it. It's interesting.
yeah,
It's like
I've never run in
it's
them.
like a
I don't
little
know.
springboard feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Are you doing it?
I might. I haven't been running much, but it's also one of those things like that I've heard, this person's doing it, they're doing it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
might, but the years of running it faster behind me,
It's
it's a tough race. I mean, it
it's
hurts.
probably, I think it's the worst 7 mile race in the world. Probably in the world, for sure, in the world. Um, and definitely within in this area,
Yeah.
it's the hardest 7 mile race.
Well, the weather is part of it too. It's
Weather is
usually
part of
hot.
it. The amount of people. When you get 15,000 people in 7 miles,
Yeah.
it's not like you're out there by
No.
yourself. You're not getting any
No,
clear lanes
there's no help
unless
on
you're
the
winning.
start. Yeah,
Unless you're
exactly.
winning. I didn't know until I asked Michelle, who's the race director. Um, I didn't know the elite pros are on gun time. There's no
Oh,
chip for them.
oh, really?
Yeah. So
So
do
it
you remember?
matters.
Yeah.
Like the
But do you
jockey crew.
remember? I think it was a couple years ago. I talked about this with Michelle. There was a woman in Boston.
Hmm.
She didn't have the elite pro status, but she was in that next corral, call it,
Okay.
and she placed like eighth, which is in the money,
Yeah.
and they weren't going to pay her.
Because she
And
didn't start with them.
yeah, I know, dude, trust me.
That's wild.
Anyway, but they ended up, there was such an uproar with the
Yeah.
social media, they ended up paying her. But I am going to run, and I know I'll say it, but like, I'm not looking to break any records, but you know how it is.
Yeah,
You
you get
get
out
to
there,
the start
yeah, you
line,
start feeling good.
start feeling good, and you're like, wait a second, I'm in a race,
Yeah.
right? No matter what, I'm in a race. Even if I was going to run it for fun, it's still a race to
Yeah.
me.
So I
So,
live about to run to the start line for me is about 6.5, 7 miles. And a couple years ago, I decided I was like, I'm not gonna run it hard, so I'm gonna run down there. And then like I ended up running kind of hard and regretted the running down there, and then had to run home. And I was like, this wasn't the
yeah,
move.
this is now an ultra.
It's like 21 miles later for
Yeah,
that reason. But anyway,
it is a cool race, and it does definitely motivate people to start training, right? And there are
yeah,
people that will walk it. But here's another stat I didn't know, and maybe you knew this, but there's 4,000 volunteers.
is it really?
4,000.
That's wild.
So then I started looking up after Michelle and I talked, and I was like, how many are in Boston? It was like 30,000
That's
volunteers. I'm like,
crazy.
oh my God.
Dude, that's one of the things that's interesting about like I know of a lot of race directors, and I've been one myself. Um, that's probably one of the hardest, most stressful pieces of the puzzle, I would say. Is just like knowing what needs to happen and seeing like all of that sort of unfold in front of you as a director, and you're like, man, I could do that, but it's going to take four people. I could do this, but it's going to take two more people. And like just putting on a good event that everybody loves it's deep. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Like, and you look at
absolutely.
like Joe Marino, like
Yeah.
it's like I think that's a overlooked piece of being a race director is being like a amazing leader of volunteers and like making sure that they're taken care of. And nobody wants to volunteer like to work for a guy that like doesn't give him an attaboy, tell him good job, and take care of him. It's like
Right.
if you're kind of a jerk, like people are like no thanks. It's like
Yeah, they're doing it for free.
right,
And there's their time, and there are, like she said, there are people that have been doing it for 35 years where they're like, I'm that person at that corner every year,
yeah,
and they take pride in that,
yeah.
and it's pretty cool to see that it
Yeah,
continues.
that's it's pretty crazy to think about what it takes just from a the masses, like you said, perspective, and let's set aside the money that goes into it because that's kind of like somebody's writing a check and it's whatever, but it's like just the people that are, like you said, volunteering their time to be a part of it to make it as big as it is. And we actually have, you think about it, we have pretty amazing events that way in the Quad Cities. Like,
Yeah, Quad City
the
Marathon,
marathon's huge, the Bix is huge,
Bix
and
is huge.
so
The Firecracker now is
yeah,
huge. That's a huge one. All right, I got to add one question
yeah,
here towards, I know you got to
no,
go.
you're good.
So, um, Lost Roads.
Yeah,
Have you ever thought about doing some kind of an event out there again where it would either be a road race,
hmm
trail, gravel, or a bike?
hmm I just did.
You did.
You know about this one? All right,
Uh-uh.
so yeah, I put on a race, an event. She's June 7th,
Okay.
so a month ago exactly almost. And so the fast version of this is to say that I got introduced to that route between Kyle and Deb Wood,
Oh, okay.
and I was looking to train for the first 50K, and I was like, I need somewhere to run in the winter, and so that's how that 7 miler came
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's like perfect for running training because it's hour-ish loops and whatever. And so I was been wanting to do like an event for kind of a with a low barrier to entry for people on gravel bikes to kind of push themselves as far as they can. So I came up with a random name called Full Day's Work because
Okay.
when I started this, I was like, man, that'd be cool if we went out and like did like a 8 hour like from 9 to 5 and just as many loops as you can do. And I was like, that's a full day's work. And we're like, we should call it that. So
Yeah.
that's how that landed. But I ended up having like 28 people. I charged $10, just so I
Yeah.
could buy bananas and coffee and have water and all that ready and a porta potty. And so basically all we did was, 3, 2, 1, go at 9 a.m. And you literally just did as many loops as you could. And I put a little board up when you stopped, just make a mark.
Check mark.
And and so the goal was to get 100 miles, which was like 16 loops or something, whatever the math works out to be. And I had stickers made that said paid in full day's work, a little
Oh,
logo on it,
wow. That's pretty cool.
and you got one if you did that. And so I think we had like out of the 25 people, I think we had maybe like 10 or 11 that got the 100 miles. And so yeah, I love. And then we started in that little parking lot just so
Yeah.
like we did for Lost Roads.
Yep.
I think it's one of the coolest little gems that we have. Tons of elevation, very easy to navigate. You can't like
You can't
they
get
were like, "Hey,
lost.
where's the thing?" I said,
Yeah.
"You turn right."
Yeah. Just keep
When?
turning right.
Just keep doing that.
Right. NASCAR.
It's like the simplest thing. So yeah, but I would still what I said last after we got done with this, and then going back to say like, oh man, Lost Roads was super cool when it happened. I'm like, man, I wonder if I could pull this off and do like a running race in the morning before it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if
Yeah.
it was just like a one lapper.
Or two or three
Yeah, yeah,
race over.
something. Yeah, and then do this event after. If we're already out there, we already have the porta potty, we have the music set up, all the things. So maybe in the future, I'll knock on Kyle's door about it too, because I mean, obviously, I don't want to go around him on that one. It was his baby to begin with. So
Yeah. No, did you end up having, did you get like permit and all that kind of stuff?
no.
No, I didn't think so. And then I know that there was a big problem with a couple of the people that live out there.
Yeah, so I did talk to a few people out there, and we've had no bad blood since a few of those things happened back in the race day. Um, we ride out there all the time, and I haven't really had any issues. So I think that so this year, like I said, with 25 people, I think next year I'm going to cap it at 50
Okay.
and try to fill it up. I'll maybe charge $20 next year to be able to have a few more amenities.
Yeah.
But at that rate, I would definitely talk permits and all that. The hardest part, full transparency, Scott County is not easy to work with.
Yeah.
They want you're like, hey, we're gonna have 20 people riding bikes, and all of a sudden the next thing you know, they want 16 permits because the DNR has something to do with the lake and it's close and it's challenging to make happen. But uh, we got away with it the first year this year, so we'll do something next year, probably make it a little more legitimate.
It's such a cool course,
Yeah.
and there's like a bunch of stuff that we've added on to it. But the thing that scares me about out there now is like the dogs that
hmm
attacked us a couple of times.
Yeah.
Like, what
So
the hell?
the most of the dogs are good now. There's really
Okay.
hasn't had any issues in a while. The one that was bad, the on the I guess
Yeah,
the
that
headed south
one.
loop, yeah,
Yeah.
that one's not there anymore.
Okay.
So we've had pretty good luck with we had no issues this year with dogs. And honestly, like even just the people in general were real friendly and cool, and it went well. So I was pretty thankful for
So
that.
it's so crazy that Scott County would be like that because honestly, I mean, what did we see? One car and one
Yeah,
truck the whole
yeah,
entire time?
yeah.
It's not like
I
it's a
know.
high traffic
No,
area
100%.
and we're kind of doing something cool. Maybe uh I think it would be cool to have I thought about how you're talking about doing like a road race and then a bike race. What if you did like a relay?
So we talked about that too. The only thing that would get sketchy would just be I'd almost feel like I'd have to cone a lot of it off to maybe like create a running lane or something. Just
Or
because,
you're smart enough to not
well,
get run over.
yeah, it's just
Bike
it
stay to the right,
there's some
runners stay to the
fast
left.
sections
Yeah.
on a bike.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that
Down
asphalt
the hill.
downhill is
Yeah.
like 30 some mile an hour. Like
Yeah, that is
you're.
pretty. Yeah.
So yeah, there's some parts of that that could get a little fuzzy, but maybe not quite as fun from a relay perspective, but like I'm still into like, okay, well, if you do the run and you do the ride, we can combine scores and there can be an overall, there's ways to
Yeah.
do it that maybe be a little more safe, but either way, it's pretty
Or if
cool.
you did one way, one the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you
No,
did the
it's
bike
yeah.
going straight like the way you
Yeah.
should, and then the run the opposite
Yeah.
way,
Yeah, it's
maybe
definitely an
it's
option.
yeah. It's such a cool like and it's 7 miles.
Yeah. It's
Like
a it's a
exact.
great it's a
Pretty cool.
great distance for the coolest part for us and the reason I did it was like you don't have to you're going right 100 miler like you have all this stuff like things water all this fuel it's like you could do 3 or 4 laps with just stuff on your bike real easy and
Yeah.
then stop and fuel up and roll and so that was kind of the point of it was just to make it bare to entry from just like all angles pretty easy to do so
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I know like as far as like a spectator sport, I would say probably, and I never even seen like a 100 mile bike race,
yeah
but other than Leadville, but you never see anybody,
no
right? But this you would.
yeah for
Every
sure
7 miles you're seeing
some
somebody.
people hung out like and a few people like did a couple loops and then just like chilled in the parking lot
Yeah,
hung out and it was
that's
had
cool.
music playing it was a cool
Yeah.
atmosphere that way so
So do you have any bike goals or running goals set for the
man,
next
I wish
year?
I did. I don't really have anything like this year. The goal, I tried to do some stuff last year, a little bit more goal oriented. And this year, my thought and like my direction was I never have an issue with like riding enough. I always want to ride, so
Yeah.
that's not ever a problem for me. But this year, I was like, I just want to do events and races that are like sound fun. Like, I don't really want to do any like go to any race and be like, oh, I got to train hard for this for 6 months. I'm just not in that spot right now with my schedule being so up and down.
Yeah.
And so I'll do like the Fork Enduro, which is a fun 100 mile local, do all the trails. That one's fun. I'll do most of the gravel races that are local, mountain bike races. Just do some local stuff and then travel up to the Driftless area a couple times. There's a few races this fall that are hilly and challenging.
Yeah.
So, but for me, man, at this point, it's like I just like no matter what I'm racing, I love the adrenaline. I love the race craft behind it. And then I just love the people. I love being out there with, guys racing them and, talking a little crap before and
Oh
after
yeah.
and just,
Yeah.
just throwing down, that's kind of the funnest part for me. So
All right, last thing.
yeah.
For people that are either biking on their own now
hmm
and they want to get into gravel or they want to just start, what do you recommend they do to start? Like you talk about, it's cool to bring people in and
Yeah.
get them involved. What do you recommend that person that's never done it or has done it and isn't part of this group or a
Yeah.
group?
I mean, if you're local, I mean, the best thing to do is to show up. I think that our Tuesday night ride is like barrier to entry is like nothing. Like if you can ride a bike, even if it's a mountain bike, we had like 4 people on mountain bikes last night. Totally fine. Um, Show up, get to know some people, and just be honest about what you're trying to get out of it. Like, hey, I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a little nervous, whatever it is. And there's enough of people there and people that will take care of you and make sure you have a good experience and just let it build from there. But go in with an open mind and realize that even though a lot of us are online all the time, and a lot of people probably see it, we're talking crap to each other, and whatever. It's like nobody there, everybody there wants to see new people. Everybody
Yeah.
there wants to be kind, and it's. I had a guy last night actually tell me, he's like, I told my wife we moved to town and I wanted to go ride with this group, but I was scared. I didn't want to go. I was nervous. And he's like, I came and you guys were awesome. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, dude, we're excited to have you.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, I don't know. I might talk crap to my buddies, but I'm not, we're going to be nice to everybody else for sure. So
One last
yeah, you're
question.
good.
Do you have to wear the gear?
No,
Okay.
no,
Because that's always going to be my number one reason that I'm not going to
you don't
join
want
them.
to kid out.
I just don't want to.
No, it's
I
fine.
don't look good in it, and I
That's
don't
fair.
ever want to wear the
I don't
tight
know that
shirt.
any of us look good in it. Let's start there.
Yeah.
No, you can wear whatever you want to wear, man. I mean, I think for most of us anymore, it's like that's what we're used to wearing and packing all the stuff. But like last night, I wore a cargo bib set with a tank top and was totally comfortable with that. And you can wear whatever you want.
Yeah, no, that is cool. They have come a long way with the bike shorts that are
Yeah.
like regular shorts
Yep.
looking shorts
Yeah.
and shirts and stuff like that. But
No, you don't have to kid out. That to
okay,
answer your
cool.
question. You can come in that if you want to. It doesn't
And
bother
no
us.
clip-ins because I can't do it. I used to
No.
be able to do it, and I just switched my pedals on my road bike out to regular
Yeah.
pedals.
Yeah,
It's just easier.
there's probably 7 or 8 guys last night running flats. I mean, it's totally normal. I mean, it's no big deal. So
Yeah. All
sweet.
right. Well, I really appreciate your
Yeah,
time,
thank you,
Brandon.
dude.
So thanks for coming over and thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.